Hey Nerdfighters, Mark here. Have you ever been in an argument, like a real argument, the kind where you're both speaking in exasperated sighs and pointed glances, and in the heat of the moment, you say or do something that you think is, like, universally understood? Like, it's just common human behavior, right? And then the other person, the audacity of this human, looks at you with a completely straight face and utters those soul-crushing words, "I don't know what you're talking about." A part of you dies inside. The part that believes in shared human experiences. And you find yourself wanting to scream. You know damn well what I mean. But here's the thing. Do they? Do they actually? It got me thinking, like really thinking. What if there was a way to prove definitively that some things are just ingrained in us as humans? Like a universal code of conduct that we all subconsciously agree to? Well, guess what? There might be. So buckle up, because we're going on a journey to explore the fascinating world of human universals. Those quirky, sometimes frustrating, but ultimately unifying things that connect us all. Get ready to win your next argument and maybe learn a thing or two about being human along the way. Let's go. Okay, so imagine this. A giant sandbox, right? But instead of sand, it's filled with all the things humans do. Think and believe. We're talking everything from eating habits to religious beliefs, fashion choices to funeral rites. Now, imagine every culture gets a little shovel and gets to draw a line in that sandbox. On one side of the line, nature, the stuff we're born with, the instincts, the things we share with other animals. On the other side, culture, the stuff we learn from our families, communities, and societies. The traditions, the values, the things that make us say, well, that's how we do things around here. Here's the mind-blowing part. The line is never in the same place. What one culture considers natural and just the way things are, another might see as totally bizarre and completely learned behavior. Anthropologists, take eating bugs, for example. Totally normal in some parts of the world, a source of protein, a delicacy even, but in other places, the thought of it sends shivers down spines. Is it nature or nurture? You see what I mean? It all depends on where you draw that line in the sand. And this isn't just some random anthropological trivia. This stuff matters. Understanding how different cultures draw this line helps us understand their worldview. It's like a window into how they see themselves, their place in the world, and their relationship with everything around them. And that, my friends, is the first human universal we're tackling. The awareness that there is a difference between culture and nature. We may not all agree on where the line is, but we all know it exists. We're all drawing in the sandbox, trying to make sense of this crazy thing called being human. All right, let's talk about language. And no, I don't mean just the words we use. I'm talking about language as this living, breathing thing that shapes our reality. Think of language like a giant ship, sailing across the ocean of time. What's on that ship? Everything. It's carrying the weight of history, the stories of our ancestors, the traditions that have been passed down for generations. It's carrying the values that define a culture, the things they hold dear, the things they strive for. And, of course, it's carrying the social norms, the unwritten rules of engagement, the things that make us say, well, that's just not how we do things. Language isn't just a tool for communication. It's a vessel, a carrier of culture itself. It's how we transmit the invisible threads that connect us, that make us a part of something bigger than ourselves. Historian. Media. Historian explaining cultural idioms. Think about idioms, for example, those quirky expressions that don't make sense if you literally translate them. Kick the bucket, raining cats and dogs, piece of cake, they're like little cultural inside jokes. And when you don't get the joke, you're not just missing the words, you're missing a piece of that culture's shared experience. This is why learning a new language can be so much more than just memorizing vocabulary. It's like stepping into a different world, seeing things from a new perspective, understanding a culture on a deeper level. And it reminds us that even though we may speak different languages, even though our cultures may seem worlds apart, we're all connected by this fundamental human need to communicate, to share our stories, and to make sense of the world around us.
Humans are like obsessed with themselves. Okay, maybe not obsessed, but we do spend a lot of time thinking about our thoughts and feelings. It's like we have this internal monologue running constantly, analyzing everything. And the wild thing is, this isn't just a me thing, it's a human thing. Across cultures, people are engaged in this constant internal dialogue, trying to make sense of their emotions, motivations, and experiences. We question our place in the world, our relationships with others, the meaning of it all. It's enough to make your head spin, really. But hey, at least we're all in this together, right? So, next time you're feeling introspective, remember you're not alone. You're participating in a very human, very universal experience.
Now, here's the other side of that coin. As much as we think about our inner world, we also have this deep-seated need to share it with others. We crave connection, validation, and understanding. This is where language comes in. It becomes the bridge between our internal world and the external world, allowing us to express our thoughts and feelings, hopes and fears, dreams and disappointments. Through language, we build relationships, form communities, and create shared experiences. We tell stories, share secrets, and offer comfort. We debate, argue, and challenge each other's perspectives. It's messy and complicated, but it's also incredibly powerful, because through this exchange of thoughts and feelings, we begin to understand ourselves and each other a little bit better.
Let's be real, folks. Language isn't just about expressing ourselves. It's also about getting what we want. It's a tool, and a powerful one at that, for influencing the behavior of others. Think about it. We use language to persuade, negotiate, and manipulate. We make promises, issue threats, and appeal to emotions. We craft our words carefully, choosing just the right phrase to elicit a specific response. We employ humor, flattery, and even a little bit of guilt-tripping when necessary. The point is, language gives us the power to shape the world around us, to nudge people in a certain direction, to get them to see things our way.
Now, before you go all evil genius on me, it's important to remember that manipulation isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it's just part of being human. We manipulate our parents to get that extra dessert, our friends to watch the movie we want, even our pets to give us cuddles. It's all part of the game of life. But of course, there's a dark side to manipulation as well. History is full of examples of language being used to spread propaganda, incite violence, and oppress entire groups of people. Which is why it's so important to be aware of the power of language, both for good and for evil. We need to be critical thinkers, to question what we hear, and to use our own voices responsibly. One of the most remarkable things about human language is its ability to transcend the concrete world and delve into the realm of the abstract. We don't just talk about things we can see and touch. We talk about ideas, concepts, and emotions. Think about it. Love, justice, freedom. These are not tangible things. You can't hold them in your hand or measure them with a ruler. And yet, we talk about them constantly. We write songs about them, fight wars over them, build entire societies around them. This ability to think and speak in abstractions is what sets us apart from other animals. It allows us to grapple with complex issues, to imagine different possibilities, to create meaning in a world that can often feel meaningless. It's what allows us to dream of a better future, even when the present seems bleak And the really mind-blowing thing is that there's no limit to the abstract concepts we can discuss. We can talk about things like infinity, the nature of consciousness, the existence of God. We can debate the merits of different political systems, the meaning of art, the purpose of life itself. Language gives us the tools to explore the furthest reaches of human thought, to push the boundaries of what we know and understand. It's like having a universe of ideas at our fingertips, just waiting to be explored. Of course, this can also lead to disagreements, arguments, and the occasional existential crisis. But hey, that's all part of the fun, right? Humans love to talk, using language to navigate our social world. Language gives us a superpower to transcend the here and now. We can talk about things that aren't physically present, reminisce about that perfect slice of pizza or an awkward encounter, plan for the future, dream of a different world, or decide dinner. This ability to discuss the non-present is a big deal. Learn from the past, prepare for the future, and imagine new possibilities. Write books, build spaceships, and create art that transcends generations. We shape the world with our words, extending beyond the present. All of this is possible because of language. It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. This ability is tied to our capacity for abstract thought. We discuss love, justice, and freedom, even though we can't touch them. Debate the meaning of life, or the best way to make tea. These concepts shape our values, beliefs, and actions. They stem from our ability to use language beyond the concrete world. It's like having a superpower, to step outside the present moment and explore possibilities. We do this naturally, effortlessly. Next time you're lost in thought, remember you're transcending time and space with language. Now, we've talked about how language allows us to communicate, to share ideas, and even to manipulate each other a little bit. Come on, we've all been there. But there's another aspect to language that's worth exploring: its relationship to social status. Throughout history, across cultures, the ability to use language effectively has often been associated with power and prestige. Think about it. Eloquent speakers, skilled debaters, gifted storytellers, they often command attention, respect, and even admiration. And while this phenomenon might seem like a relic of a bygone era, think about the people we admire today: writers, speakers, even those who excel at crafting the perfect tweet. The ability to articulate oneself clearly and persuasively still holds weight in our modern world. Of course, it's important to acknowledge that this association between language and status isn't always fair or equitable. Historical power structures have often privileged certain voices over others, and we still see these biases playing out today.
And this brings us to a somewhat uncomfortable truth. The relationship between language and status is often deeply gendered. Historically, men have been the ones encouraged, even expected, to master the art of public speaking, to engage in witty banter, and to command attention with their words. Women, on the other hand, have often been relegated to the sidelines of these conversations, their voices silenced or dismissed. And while we've made strides in challenging these norms, the echoes of these historical imbalances still linger. Think about it. How often are women interrupted or spoken over in meetings? How often are their ideas attributed to male colleagues? These microaggressions, often unintentional but no less impactful, highlight the ways in which language and gender continue to intersect in complex and often unequal ways. It's something to be mindful of, both in our own interactions and in the broader societal structures that shape our communication patterns. Because when we talk about the power of language, we also need to talk about who gets to wield that power and whose voices are still being marginalized.
Okay, let's be honest. We all love a little bit of gossip, right? It's like a guilty pleasure. But did you know that gossip actually serves a vital social function? Anthropologists and social scientists have found that gossip is a universal human behavior, present in every culture across the globe. Gossip is essentially a way for us to share information about our social world, to navigate the complex web of relationships and hierarchies. It's how we learn about social norms, figure out who to trust, and even enforce those norms. Think about it. When you hear a piece of gossip, it tells you something about the person being gossiped about and the person doing the gossiping.
Now, before you start thinking that gossip is all bad, it's important to remember that it's a tool. It can build social bonds or damage reputations. So the next time you find yourself drawn into a juicy gossip session, take a moment to consider the motivations at play. Gossip might be a universal human behavior, but it's up to us to use it responsibly.
Chapter 10. The Unspoken Word, where actions speak louder. So we've talked a lot about language, right? It's kind of my thing. But here's the deal. Sometimes the most powerful communication happens without a single word being spoken. Think about it. A raised eyebrow, a knowing glance, a sigh that could wilt a houseplant. These things can convey volumes. It's like, imagine you're telling someone about this amazing thing that happened to you, and they're just staring at you with dead eyes and their phone in their hand. Yeah, not exactly conveying rapt attention, are they? Our brains are wired to pick up on these subtle cues, these tiny shifts in posture and expression, and they often tell us more than words ever could. And the crazy thing is, this isn't some weird cultural quirk. It's universal. From the bustling markets of Marrakech to the quiet cafes of Paris, people are constantly reading each other's nonverbal signals, often without even realizing it. Now, I'm not saying we should all become mimes or anything, but being aware of this unspoken language can seriously up your communication game. Like, imagine you're trying to convince your friend to watch that documentary you loved. You could just tell them it's good. Or you could channel your inner salesperson. Lean in with genuine enthusiasm. Maybe even throw in a well-placed hand gesture for emphasis. See the difference? It's like adding exclamation points to your sentences, but with your face and body instead of punctuation marks. And let's be real, sometimes words just aren't enough. How do you explain the feeling of awe when you see the Grand Canyon for the first time? Or the gut-wrenching sadness of saying goodbye to someone you love. These are the moments when words fail us, and we rely on the universal language of nonverbal cues to bridge the gap between what we feel and what we can express, and what we Chapter 11. The double-edged sword of speech, truth and lies. Language. It's how we share ideas, tell stories, build relationships. It's the foundation of human connection and the bedrock of civilization. But, like a scalpel in the hands of a skilled surgeon, it can be used for good or for evil. Because let's not kid ourselves, words have power. They can inspire movements, spark revolutions, and change the course of history. But they can also deceive, manipulate, and inflict unimaginable pain. Think about propaganda, about misinformation campaigns, about all the times you've been lied to, betrayed by someone's carefully crafted words. It's enough to make you want to retreat to a deserted island and communicate solely through interpretive dance. So, how do we navigate this linguistic minefield? How do we separate the truth tellers from the charlatans, the genuine connections from the calculated manipulations? Well, it's not always easy. We live in a world awash in information, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to discern fact from fiction. But here's the thing. Critical thinking is more important than ever. Don't just accept everything you hear or read at face value. Question your sources, consider their biases, and be wary of anything that seems too good to be true. And maybe, just maybe, By being more mindful of the power of language, both for good and for evil, we can create a world where words are used to build bridges instead of walls. Chapter 12. Outro. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this dive into human universals and hope it cleared the air some on when people act like they don't understand when we know they do. If you want to see the human universals list for yourself, please go to humanjourney.. Yes. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. This really helps me and tells the algorithm who should see my videos. And remember to question your reality. You guys take care.